I think when it comes to direct racism, overt racism, I'm very lucky to say that I haven't experienced that.
I'm here in North Hollywood with Brance Williams Souza. Brance is a dancer, a performer, a friend, and a great all-round guy.
Marcus, hello, nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Brance, how is it being in America, being a black American 3 weeks after George Floyd, 2 weeks after these riots in Hollywood, protests still going on, and a whole lot of stuff happening?
Yeah, it's a little insane. It's kind of hard to wrap my mind around everything that's been kind of going on, especially with the pandemic that's going on. We've kind of been just huddled up in our houses. For me personally, it's been a sort of, for lack of better terms, identity crisis in a sense that I am biracial.
What is your heritage?
On my mother's side, my great-grandparents are actually from the Azores Islands, from Treseda, and my dad's side is black. We can trace generations back to the slave area. But just with those two kind of coinciding with each other, it's been a little difficult kind of navigating where I'm able to be responsible for not only my own blackness, but also the side that is kind of negating the feelings of a lot of black people and people of color in this country.
So let's talk about that. It's very interesting. So being responsible for your own blackness. I mean, I don't know how I'd be responsible for my whiteness and Jewishness, but what does that mean to you?
To me, that kind of just insinuates that for me as a person, as a human being, as a person of color in the society right here and now, I think it means that I have a duty to educate and have these types of conversations that we're doing currently, having the difficult conversations with people that may not necessarily have the same education or experience or knowledge. I also do speak from a point of, I think, privilege as well, too, that maybe not most people of color have. I feel like I was raised fairly privileged.
So tell me about your privilege.
I mean, my parents were together. When I say my parents were together, I was raised in a double-parent household. I was given a lot of things that were needed, school supplies. I never really felt like I never knew where my next meal was coming from. I did grow up in a sense of where, like, you know, my parents, my biological mother and father weren't together, but they still had the ability to kind of collaborate and co-parent me in a way that I was raised with the tools that I needed to succeed. I was always taught to work hard. I was always taught to get good grades. I was taught to be respectful of people. I think all the things that kind of allow you to be a good citizen of society, you know?
And you are a great citizen of society, and we've worked together.
Yeah, I feel like I have too, and like, you know, being able to work with people of different cultures, and I think you were one of the first people that I've ever worked with that had the amount of Jewish heritage that you carry, and also like work with people of color too. I know that you come from a long line of marginalized groups as well too. So getting that knowledge and having those discussions, I define that as privilege. I'm able to do that, and not a lot of people are these days.
And that's wonderful to hear. I mean, that's really wonderful to hear. How does it feel, or how do you contextualize being a descendant of slaves?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I think for me, contextualizing it would be with my art form, with my dance. I work with a dance company here in Los Angeles, Bridget Dunn Corpella. She is the artistic director of Be Done Movement, and we discuss a lot of social justice work and dealing with the black and brown body and identity, and how we have kind of come up from all the way from the transatlantic slave trade up until this point now, as we discuss a lot of those. So I think for me, that's how I how I tend to contextualize that sort of part of my life for myself.
That's very beautiful in itself, the fact that you're able to work that into your art, which obviously is a great form of expression.
Yeah.
I mean, we met when you were living La Vida Kosher with me, which was
so
tremendous.
Fun.
It was tremendous fun. And this whole process has been eye-opening for me too, not least because I had to think at the beginning, well, who do I know who's African American? Then who do I know who's black? And then I actually had to think through it, because I hadn't actually noticed, or I had never thought about, oh, we've got different colored skin.
Yeah. Or even just the idea of, like, you have to go through your friend list, your client list, your whatever list, and be like, like who is this, like, what race is this person? Like to even like think about that is just such a bizarre thing.
But that's a good thing, though.
It's also well, yeah, and I think that's also a good thing too, because it reminds me of how diverse my list is, my list of people that I can count on, my list of people that I can trust to help me contextualize, help me create art, help me move, help me by like all these things, that just my own kind of like my family, if you will. So it's
and that's
nice,
wonderful.
It's diverse. Yeah, it's diverse. I love it.
And this is a great thing about America. Have you experienced any direct prejudice, being pulled over by the cops, by having uncomfortable encounters with authority?
I can't think of a time that I can necessarily say that I've experienced overt racism by a group of people. And I think that also, just going back to speak to my privilege, I think I walk this life in a very specific way that people view me as, which is fortunate to me, but it also just shows that we're so concerned with the way people act and the way they look and the way they speak and all this stuff, but we're failing to realize that people are actually intelligent beings. And just because someone is street smart or just because somebody is book smart doesn't make them street smarts. We all have gained different experiences from different avenues of life. But I do, being in the theater world and the dance world, especially musical theater, I think there's a tendency to not have much representation with people of color, just because these stories that we do are generally based on the for lack of a better term, white fairy tales. Or they do like Rodgers and Hammerstein's. They're very specific in the stories they tell, so I'm not always able to be the parts that I want to be, or I'm not always chosen for the shows that I want to be in.
What would you say to African American youth who are growing up, seeing this incredible revolution right now, getting some very, very mixed messages, perhaps even being induced to think certain things, just through the what's happening culturally, through the community, being told to think, oh, police are naturally bad, we should be defunding, we should be turning things over. But what sort of messages would you want them to know?
I think getting involved, getting educated, getting active. I know that's something that I'm personally trying to really focus on, especially being stuck in the house all day. Finding groups that you can, either donate to, or things that you can learn and educate other people. Starting organizations, getting out there. Activism, I think, is a definite thing too, because I think there's no power without knowledge. If you just go out into the world and you're just screaming, obscenities at people just without the actual backing of it, then we're not going to get anywhere.
Fantastic. Well,
Yes.
Thank you for such erudite wisdom.
Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate you having me. You're always a pleasure.